I think that a lot of media would have you assume that red pill content is for teenage boys and disaffected young white men. And while that is largely true, and narratives like the one in Netflix's Adolescence show would have you believe that, it is increasingly, according to women in relationships, affecting men in their 20s, 30s, sometimes even their 40s and 50s. And there is a new article documenting the experience of 4 women who claim that the red pill content their boyfriends, fiancés, husbands were exposed to online destroyed their relationships. And, you know, I do think that they could have watched out for some signs here in some of these examples, but there are other women who say they've been completely blindsided by this and they're already married at this point.
The internet is a terrifying place.
And then, you know, suddenly your spouse goes down an online rabbit hole that you never could have predicted. It's kind of a nightmare scenario for a lot of them.
The scarier version of this. The scarier version of this is a guy who marries a woman who makes a lot of money, and then she's like, I want to become a trad wife. He's like, no!
Goes full on ballerina farm. And he's like, no, like, I kind of wanted you to make a dueling company.
Wouldn't it be really, really funny? That would actually be like a great skit. Like, this guy marries a really rich woman, and then she wants to be a trad wife, but then he becomes red pilled because he's like, she should be listening to me and working, and she's not submitting and being a good trad wife unless she's making money for me.
So Refinery 29 has changed their names for privacy, but they document first. Kelsey, age 28, had a long-standing crush on Peter when they were in high school together, but she never thought that he would be interested in her romantically. Then he started DMing her on Instagram a few years after they graduated, eventually asking her out, and it felt like a dream. She liked that he seemed to share a lot of her values. Quote, he was very liberal, pretty hippie, and a vegan, and into rave culture and that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh. So, so the thing is, he's just into whatever the current
This
thing
was his
is.
starting point.
Yeah, he totally flipped, man.
He made me want to be a better person, she says. But about a year into dating, toward the end of the pandemic, Peter started to change. It began with his diet. He became a carnivore, citing an influencer named Paul Saladino who promotes a carnivore diet as his inspiration.
He just stopped being a vegan and became red pill. His diet
went the
like
complete
overnight.
opposite. So this is a dude who doesn't know how to do any moderation. He just goes whatever the newest trend is.
When Kelsey looked up this influencer, she saw that he was anti-vax, and soon after, Peter started to parrot his views on vaccinations. And while his change in views disturbed Kelsey, she still saw the qualities that she'd fallen for in him. We still had good moments. We still laughed together. I was hoping that he would change. That's a classic line from women in dead-end relationships. Like,
20.
I was just waiting for him to change.
By
We have a 20 from Dr. Larcena. What she was wearing while bull dancing was quite analogous to pictorial representations from Knossos mosaics. Do Christian productions need to be both historically inaccurate and lame to pass muster?
Well, I mean, if they put the research in and that's what it looked like they were wearing at the time, then, you know, that matters.
Sure. What were you about to?
Well, what I was going to ask, because they start talking about the vaccine, etc., and so I'm curious what is meant by red pill here. Are they using red pill in the precise way to refer to the online men's movement, or do they just mean red pill is a generic term for right wing?
They are referring to the manosphere content,
Okay.
but they're saying there are certain entry points that have more to do with health, self-improvement, politics, and
He started taking care of himself and rejected my ideology. That's
Right.
nuts.
But this happens.
Right.
We've covered stories where women Mary has covered the stories here where it's like the woman's like they start out maha and before long,
right,
like they leave your vegan craft shop and suddenly they want to have kids and get married.
So she says as time went on, Peter's views got more extreme and his behavior toward her grew more controlling. Quote, he started trying to dictate what I should eat, saying that I shouldn't eat vegetables anymore. He also started telling her to dress more modestly and to dye her hair, which was pink at the time, a normal color. And in the last few months of their relationship, he began to make comments that were, as she put it, transphobic and sexist. He started to quote Jordan Peterson in conversation regularly and read books about traditional marriage and roles for women versus men. On one occasion, he tried to read a passage from the book titled The Case for Patriarchy, which resulted in an explosive argument. They broke up shortly after. She said, our relationship just started to feel very one-sided by then. Like I had to please him. It didn't matter how I was feeling anymore.
That's the Tim Gordon book, I think.
Is it?
The Case for Patriarchy. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I see her side of things because
absolutely.
She got into this relationship thinking like I'm dating this like safe liberal hippie guy.
He was a completely different person.
Right,
they weren't compatible.
No, they were compatible at
first.
one point.
And then
The
they
problem
weren't
is
anymore.
that this guy had absolutely no idea who he was.
You outgrew her, King.
Yeah.
His problem is that he expected her to conform, and
right,
when they were no longer compatible, tried to like make her into the woman that he matured into wanting later in life. You know?
Yeah, and so obviously a man should try to lead a woman, but when you're in a relationship with someone, especially if you're not yet married, listen, man, there's only so much you can do.
Well,
if you outgrew, if your values are no longer aligned, maybe it makes sense to no longer be in that relationship. But there's a lot to consider in that equation. It's not always that simple.
And how he was learning to perceive the idea of leading as something that wasn't even valued in their relationship to begin with, because neither of them possessed the personality. If anything, she probably had the personality of the leader of the relationship more than he did.
So,
I'm going to be a bigot here, but I just got to be honest. The understanding or undercurrent of male leadership exists in all male-female relationships, whether we acknowledge it or not.
Sure.
Like, women look to men for leadership, even if they're the most feminist woman in the world who would never acknowledge that.
Well, this lady didn't. She's like, I'm out of here.
In this story, I believe it's possible. We're only hearing her side.
Yes.
And he actually was making, very normal measures to improve his life, his health. And he was also changing his views on relationships
I'm just
as
picturing,
they got
like,
older. She's probably just framing it as this like villain arc that in reality it wasn't.
She
And
says
after a
something-
breakup, who doesn't do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she's in a tough spot.
She's like talking, and he's just like, can I just want to bring something up. And he pulls out a book that says The Case for Patriarchy. He's like, I just wanted to read you something really quick.
Yeah, he thought that was gonna go over
He
well.
covers the title so she can't see what it says.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he just hides the P in patriarchy. It's actually the case for matriarchy. So this next example is more telling, I think, of something where he's going down a rabbit hole and like actually losing touch with the reality. So this girl who goes by Anna in the story says they started dating when she had moved to a different city for a work placement, and they were in regular contact and planned to be together when she returned back to where they both lived. After moving, she recalls having a conversation with him, with Josh, it puts him as Josh, about Andrew Tate, where she was deriding Tate's views. Josh told Anna that while he didn't agree with what most of Andrew Tate says, he had good points. This alarmed her. I suspected that he was taking Andrew Tate more seriously than he was letting on, and a few weeks later, she says, almost out of nowhere, he started ignoring her calls. Eventually, he suggested that they stop speaking until she moved back to their town. She said she was heartbroken. He started up contact again with her within the month, and things went back to normal for a while. And then that only lasted a short time before he cut contact with her again, completely without warning.
Mercurial.
The second time this happened, she decided to call him out on it, and he responded by admitting that he was deploying what he called a dread game, which is a red pill dating strategy involving uncertainty as a way to increase their perceived value in the eyes of the romantic partner.
Dude,
the female.
This is all right, man.
And yeah, she said, I told him that dread game doesn't work. He responded that it worked on his ex. It was your ex, so I don't think it worked. But I was absolutely disgusted. I told him that his tricks had ruined things with me and I was no longer interested. So there you go. Dread game doesn't work.
Yeah.
And this is why, obviously, I take issue with a lot of the red pill stuff. They take issue with trad cons. There are certain incompatibilities there. There are certain things they say and do that are good. Like when they're emphasizing self-improvement, getting your life together, being a leader. I think that's awesome. When it comes to the weird manipulation tactics, like you should only message her at this rate at these times, like, dude, every relationship and interaction is different. And also, if you have to get that like petty and measured with your interactions, there's something emasculating about that as well. It's bizarre.
Right.
And
That
the
they talk
thing
about
is
like maintaining frame or losing frame. I mean, if you're that fixated on farming attention from women, you're losing frame. Like, that's not masculine.
And these types of relationship salesmen have always existed. The pickup artists, the ones who have kind of existed to try and push for the whims of guys who maybe didn't have good male role models in their lives.
It's like the relationship coach that approached me, who told me that he's in an open marriage. And I was like, bro, you obviously don't have any grounds to offer advice to single guys about dating. You're not in a relationship. And he was like, you're judging me and you don't know anything about my life, man. Like,
that's
you came up to me.
He's still wrong. Yeah, exactly. Who cares if it? I know that you're a married man who's propositioning an unmarried woman. So, but I want to mention something because someone in the chat said the red pill just gives descriptions and doesn't give advice. Listen, I disagree with the red pill on a number of things it said. I don't want to misrepresent them. I think it might be possible there's a distinction between like the pickup artist community and the red pill community, even though they're both in the manosphere.
Right.
So I'm using the term very generically, but maybe you're right. And so if that's the case, I apologize. My point is just that I think that in relationships, the way to be masculine is to be direct and not to be manipulative.
Right.
And that's, I thought that was something everybody knew, right?
So that's what you do is you don't tell her you're reading the case for patriarchy. And you just kind of sneak it in there.
Here were a couple of other stories that weren't included in this article that I found elsewhere. One was a DM that a YouTuber named Bernadine Bluntly shared with her following anonymously. So she said, this is a married woman. I'm married, but my husband is heavily into the red pill content and is destroying our marriage to the point where divorce is heavily considered. He's now trying to condition me to believe that it's okay for him to sleep with other women while being married to me because there's no emotional attachment, as he puts it. He's turned abusive and verbally and emotionally damaging. All he does is send me red pill content and tells me I need to accept these as truths. I thought I married a man of God, but he has shown me that he doesn't want to follow the ways of the Lord. I am so grateful for your content. It shows me I'm not crazy and delusional, and that marriage with true godly principles is still the right way. So even, you know, Christian, conservative leaning women.
This guy's just a bad person.
And then there's another comment I saw in response to the article sharing these stories. One said, my husband started alluding to the idea that he could have anyone he wanted. I responded, don't let me stand in your way. He asked me what I brought to the table. I responded, my uterus and the continuation of your family name and legacy. More comments were exchanged, and I filed for divorce. I didn't know I was auditioning for a role I already had.
All right, and now I don't think there's any shot these people are going to hear us because you're reading from an article, but I really hope, I hate to see a marriage end. I really hope they're able to work it out and that this guy comes to his senses. This whole, like, what do you bring to the table thing is so ridiculous because there's a failure to understand normal male-female relationships. I understand, by the way, that in the current landscape culturally, men can't do anything right. Nothing men do is appreciated. Women are always perfect. Like, I get that, and I do get the pushback against it.
That's what created the pocket for this type of content.
So I'm not making the argument that this just fell from the sky for no reason, but if you're truly in love with a woman, the things that she brings to the table are obvious. Like, bro, you're the leader. You tell her what she brings to the table. Part of leadership is giving recognition where it's deserved.
Yep.
I fear if you're asking your wife and the mother of your children what she brings to the table, you're just too far gone at that point.
I kind of need to, like, record a skit where I go and ask Olivia this.
with smart glasses. So she doesn't know.
It's like, honey, what is it that, I get it, but what do you bring to the table?
I'll say for the anonymous accounts, some of these women are mischaracterizing their exes, and they very well might be well-adjusted men whose values shifted over time and the relationship had to end anyway. Other examples, though, are cut and dry. These men are in the wrong, and it is interesting that these stories go against the popular narrative that the red pill content online is solely appealing to single, lots of teenage guys.
Yeah.
It's well beyond just that audience. It's going on to, like, older generations and seemingly a lot of married men and fathers, which is more dangerous because more is at stake. Those main examples, to me, they just speak to the type of person that's any type of ideology would have crept in
and done something to them. For instance, the first guy being he was the farthest end of the spectrum the other way. He's a vegan.
Yeah.
He's you know, he's everything that is the current thing until he finds the next current thing, and it completely infects his personality. And if you're that swayable to whatever is in the culture, you are not a pillar for your family.
Amen.
Right.
And also, amen, totally agreed. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I'll also add that I think a huge part of this isn't just going along with trends, it's in overcorrection. And to some degree that involves trends, because trends will overcorrect, as we've seen happening here. But as a man, I think a lot of these men enter these relationships with that very cocked, embarrassing, like she's the boss style thing, where they're not taking a leadership role in their relationship, and they're either aloof or submissive, but they're not acting as men should. And then they feel a need to overcompensate for that later, when the reality is you just got to be normal, man. You just got to be normal.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.